Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber, and welcome back to a new video. And today I just want to do a quick little discussion because today is Thanksgiving when I'm uploading this, and I just wanted to say some music that I'm thankful for. I have four categories, and just real quick, I know this is a new room to you guys. This is the new room that I'm living in. Just for a while, I will be going back to the place I was recording at before, but I'm home for winter break. So you're going to see some content here right now. I'm still figuring out the lighting, so this isn't concrete, but we're just going to get into some music that I'm into, that I'm very appreciative for, especially this year. And I broke this down into artists slash bands, musicians themselves, like individual members, and they're more often than not in different bands, and that's kind of what I went for in this regard. Instruments, just random instruments that I thought would be interesting, and songs. And I tried making these all unaffiliated with each other as much as possible. Although you might see there's a connection between two things I mentioned here, where you see they both were involved with one thing. Uh, they try to make them as loose as a connection as possible because I wanted to cover as much ground as possible. So you're not going to see two bands of the same genre, and you're not going to see any person in multiple things on here. So I'm going to start in the band slash artist section, and the way I'm going to kind of do this is I'm going to start with people who I know less and move to people that I'm more familiar with. So the first artist I want to mention that I'm thankful for is Pusha T. Actually, I considered saying a few hip hop artists. I considered Kendrick or Kanye, but I thought actually I'd mention Pusha T because he was kind of a bit of a sleeper choice for me. And one of the main reasons for that is his features, mainly on Kanye's material. The opening on Kitsy Ghosts are all his bars, and those bars are incredible. He's also got some bars on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which are amazing. And also his album Daytona, which Kanye produced, is pretty amazing. I just want to say Pusha T's impact on music has been pretty incredible so far. I've not listened to much of his other material. I've really only listened to Daytona and his features, but from what I've heard from him so far, I can honestly say I'm excited for whatever he has to come up with next. The next artist I'm thankful for, I'm going to say, is the stoner metal band Sleep. Now, I'm not super into the stoner metal genre. I'm kind of surface level where I've got a few bands I'm familiar with, but Sleep is definitely one of them. I've listened to a couple of their albums and a bit of their other material, and I gotta say, legendary stuff. Their discography, as far as I could tell, is pretty much spotless. Everyone knows Holy Mountain for having that amazing track list. Dragonaut is such an incredible opening track. I remember the first time I heard that, I was actually stunned with how good it was. And I could not mention the band Sleep without their amazing single track, hour long album, Dope Smoker, aka Jerusalem. That thing is unnecessarily good. That it has some of the most amazing riffs ever. I forgot the name of the guitarist, but I'm gonna say his name right here. I love that man so much. He's incredibly talented. And the last band I actually want to mention, and I hope none of you guys are upset with me for this, but I've actually been thinking about them a lot recently, is Weezer. And I know they might not have the best release catalog past the 2000s, but I'm gonna be honest, I think they have a lot, and I mean a lot, of solid material. Obviously, their first two albums are incredible. Blue Album is an amazing example of like sort of early alt slash like garage rock and plenty of other genres there. And I think honestly for like a more mainstream rock sound, I like it more than anything that the Strokes or White Stripes have done. I just think that album is so good and so catchy, and it's very direct, and it still reaches those emotional moments that are pretty incredible. And obviously Pinkerton had that bit of an emo twist in there, yet still being just as gripping as before. I would prefer Blue Album personally, but I think it's awesome. But I don't even scoff at their later material. I think Maladroit is awesome. I think White Album is a little bit overrated, but it has its fair share of great tracks. The opening off of Black Album was really good. Can't Knock the Hustle was a total different shift in style for them, but I think it's just still a really fun song. And there are a couple of tracks off of Red Album and Green Album, especially, that people just really dig. And there's a lot of good reason for that because they're just fun songs. And Weezer has always been fun. And also, they have like really deep B sides that I really enjoy. For example, the fact that Pinkerton came from the scrapped concept album idea, Songs from the Black Hole, I think that's what it's called. That was a space opera about going to space and then coming back down to Earth. a lot of those scrapped B-side ideas that were songs that turned up on the bonus tracks of Pinkerton, like Long Time Sunshine, which will always be one of my favorite Weezer songs at this point. That song is one of their best, actually, and I find it criminally underrated how much people don't mention it. Anyways, that's enough about Weezer. I hope you guys can actually check them out. Also, if you want more Weezer-related stuff that's pretty good, the artist Billy Cobb, he's actually another YouTuber. I'll probably link him in the description. He has made Zerwi Part 1 and 2. One is an EP, one's an LP, and it's all Weezer-related music, and it hits from different eras, and it's all pretty solid, and I'd actually recommend it a lot. Next, I'm going to mention 3 musicians for you guys. Now, the first musician I want to mention is Kevin Shields. Kevin Shields is known as the guitarist for My Bloody Valentine. He has some other material, I think, but we're here for My Bloody Valentine, let's be real. While he might not be the most technically skilled guitarist out there, his creativity and use of pedals and the whammy bar is insane. Like, if you hear Only Shallow or Loomer or When You Sleep, you can see just how amazing he is with coming up with really cool sounding riffs and stuff that is so gripping and so dense that you will feel amazing in any situation. I really can't knock a single track that he's made. His riffs have only made his material stronger, and I think he's done a very good job with what he has so far. The next musician I'm actually going to mention is Peter Gabriel. Now, that's kind of cheating because Peter Gabriel is his own artist with his own solo material, and I'm actually going to mention stuff like that later, but I mainly have him here for Genesis. Now, Peter Gabriel's solo work I'm not super familiar with, but Sledgehammer is a banger. That song is smooth. That song gets you grooving. I love that song. That song is incredible. I think that'd probably be like an instant karaoke pick. I think that thing's so awesome and so catchy, and the words on there are super fun too. But if you really want to see his like super special stuff, you gotta look at Genesis. And you might say that like every once in a while his vocals are just a little off-putting, and I definitely understand that. He doesn't always have the best vocal timbre. There are parts on Foxtrot where I'm like, sheesh, it's a little weird, and definitely a couple parts in Selling England as well. But you also have songs like Firth of Fifth, where he sounds really good, and a lot of his parts on Supper's Ready are incredible, and they're kind of elevated a little bit with his bit of, I don't want to say amateurish quality, but like how it's his own vocal style, especially how the way Supper's Ready ends, is really, I think, carried by the way he sounds. And I heard the Phil Collins version of Firth of Fifth, and I actually think it's not as good. And the last artist I want to mention here is a drummer, and I could have picked so many drummers here. Danny Carey definitely came to mind. Rest in peace, Neil Peart, 2020. I probably should have picked him, but I already had a prog mention here with Peter Gabriel, so I didn't want to mention anyone else who was involved in prog. But Neil Peart would have totally been on here. But instead, I decided to pick this year Zach Hill. Zach Hill is the acclaimed drummer of Hella, Death Grips, and his own solo material. I had that Death Grips tier list back over the summer. If you guys can hear me on the audio in that video, I know that was a time where my audio was not great. It's definitely a little better now. If you can hear my audio there, you can definitely hear me talk about Zach Hill a lot. I really love his material on Bottomless Pit. Bottomless Pit's my favorite Death Grips album, and I love how you can actually hear where the drums come in most of the time. That tight blast beat on Giving Bad People is incredible. I know it's not the most rhythmically interesting, but in sheer aggression, that thing is incredible. And watching him just perform and other stuff is amazing too. And he doesn't show a lot of restraint, except on tracks like No Love, which he does show restraint, and the drumming there is amazing. But you definitely see in Hella, there are a lot of moments where he pulls back, and his skill is unmatched. Also, his solo material, pretty awesome too. And now we go into the instruments. And I gotta admit, this first one I'm mentioning, I know, was kind of a throwaway pick for me on this listing. I almost picked the Jew harp because I own one and it's fun to play, but like the actual musical qualities it brings to a song, I think is very little, as it plays a single note and you can change the timbre. But I've heard maybe one good song with the Jew harp, and even then it's not very prevalent. So one that I found just a little more interesting is the Zither. I think that's what it's called. I will change the title now. This could be a total mess up, but I'm thinking of the instrument Billy Corgan played on the Smashing Pumpkins track "We Only Come Out at Night," where he just strums it the whole time. I don't know if he's even using it right, but that song it's fun. It's kind of off kilter. It's kind of wobbly, but it's a really fun track, you know. And I think the Zither carries a lot of it, and I love its tone. I love the way it sounds. I thought it was pretty awesome. And now we're getting into a couple instruments that I definitely have a lot more familiarity with. And one of them is the Chapman Stick. Now, I don't know that much about traditional Chapman Sticks. This is kind of me calling out an artist that recently I have been adoring his material. Tony Levin, the bassist for actually Peter Gabriel, but he uses the Chapman Stick on the King Crimson album Discipline. If you hear the riff on Elephant Talk, that thing is beyond incredible. That is one of the most creative things ever. And the way he constructed it, I don't want to say is like a ukulele where it's kind of not progressing all higher up the scale, but it's like inverted in a way, and the whole thing is tapping, and it all sounds like Primus tap parts, but it's so good every time. I just love the way he plays it live, and using this instrument to replace a bass guitar. As someone who plays bass guitar, it seems like there's very little that could replace a bass, but he does it with this, and his tapping parts are just amazing with the Chapman Stick, and I honestly need to research more into what people can do with it. I know he has a band, I think, called the Stickmen. I love what he's done on that album, and this is not the last time I'm going to mention Discipline, so I hope you guys are ready for something about that in the future. The final instrument I want to mention is the Mellotron. Now, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of good material from the 60s and 70s that use Mellotron that I think might be what makes it more preferred to me than music in the 80s or the 90s or even anything in the 2000s. Of course, Mellotron probably was used in later music, but its key time was in the 70s. I'm just going to name a few of my favorite tracks here. First of all, Strawberry Fields Forever by Beatles. That might be my favorite Beatles track, just from being so gorgeous. That opening Mellotron part is really nice. It's just so peaceful, and it really settles you down. I could also mention In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. That Mellotron part is amazing. I love it every single time. But probably my favorite use for Mellotron would be at the beginning of Watcher of the Skies by Genesis. Just another Genesis mention. They're one of the few bands I get a huge kick out of all the time. So the beginning of Watcher of the Skies has this long, I want to say 2-minute intro of Mellotron. I love it so much. It's truly gorgeous, and I highly recommend you guys try that song out. And finally, we have songs. These three I'm all pretty familiar with. I'm going to mention this first one because I guess I am the least familiar with the material it's from. But the other two are kind of interchangeable. So this first song is actually So What by Miles Davis. It was my third pick, and I had a difficult time coming up with actually what to say here. But I picked So What because I actually, a lot of times in college, I would just play that song before a class because I didn't really have time for a full album, but it had like 10 minutes, so I played the song, and it really gives me a higher appreciation for the album, because when I first got introduced to that album a while ago, I kind of pushed it aside because I kind of expected something a little more like free jazz or bebop, because that's always what I heard about it, where there's going to be a lot of improvisation and it was going to be these wild solos. And this song is a lot more nuanced and subtle with the energy behind it. If you hear, I think it's Coltrane whose sax soloing is going on, that stuff is incredible. He's just zipping all the way up and down the scale, and it's really insane how well he does it. And the differences behind the drumming. The drumming seems pretty simple on this track, but the way it plods along and it'll switch up every once in a while is pretty nice too. The opening piano that shifts into that awesome bass riff. Awesome stuff. And of course, Davis himself on the trumpet solos, which is, it's maybe a bit less, I'd say, like as wild as Coltrane's sax solo here, but it's pretty subtle, and it kind of prepares you in a way for Coltrane's solo. And I'm not a jazz critic, but I hope to be getting into it. And if anything, this song has done a great impact for me because it kind of helps me get into that mindset. The next song I want to mention is Yes You Todd by Burzum. I haven't mentioned any black metal on this list yet, and I just want to give a shout out to Varg Vikernes because he makes some of my favorite black metal, and I can't really say anything else about it because that's just true. Yes You Todd's probably my favorite song off of Philosophem, which is a hard pick. I almost picked Dunkelheit for this list, but I kind of wanted to pick a song off Philosophem because that album is probably the most famous black metal album of all time. And I love Yes You Todd strictly because of the core riff, and I can't really describe it very well, but like it opens like any Burzum track with the feedback hitting, and it like lifts, and then you hear it start like that tremolo craziness all over. So I love Yes You Todd. That song is incredible. I think I read a thread on Me one time where a guy played Yes You Todd while playing some video game. He played the same song for like hours on end because it was so spiteful and amazing. And I could have picked Dunkelheit because Dunkelheit's in English, but Yes You Todd feels a little more angry, and that's just one I wanted to pick. And it's probably a really good intro to black metal. And the last song I wanted to pick today, I could have honestly picked months ago. It is my favorite song of last decade. It is Ghost Town by Kanye West. This is probably the song that keeps Ye from being kind of a throwaway album for me. Not that it's bad, I just find it not that interesting. I think everyone really brings it to the table here. They really show their salt and they show their maximum ability on this track, and I think that everything they do here is incredible. I think the sample that they used is really awesome too. They actually used a few samples and they interpolated a track from the 60s, which the way they used it was really interesting, and it's such a powerful song about Kanye's bipolar disorder and as well as self-love. And I love how it's one of those songs you can interpret even lyrically from several different angles and get a totally different meaning, but you could still argue is correct and could totally leave a massive impact on you. And I've probably listened to this song like 20 different times with a slightly different angle, and it impacts me just in a different way, and I love it for that. Anyways, guys, just one last thing before I wrap this video up. I want to mention I'm thankful for all these things pretty much all the time. Music is my life, and that's how it's always been and probably always going to be. But this is just some stuff I wanted to mention, and I want to say that just because it's Thanksgiving does not mean you have to be thankful only on today. Show your family some love, show your friends some love, text someone that, hey, I'm thankful for you. I know it's been a while, but I appreciate you, and I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so make sure you show people, some appreciation today. Show some artists some appreciation. You never know what artist will DM you back. Lingua Ignota has liked a couple of my comments on her Instagram, and I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that, and I'm glad she enjoyed them. So just show people some love, show people some appreciation. You can do it all year round, but today especially, and maybe it's a good reminder to show us that we all have a lot to be thankful for, and I'm certainly thankful for you guys. So I would also be thankful if you guys would give me a like and a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I'd be thankful for any comments you guys give me. You can go ahead and comment down below or in the description. My social medias will be linked. I would definitely appreciate if you guys would share this video, but that's unrealistic, so I'll probably just share it on my social medias myself. Anyways, that's about it. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. I hope you guys all have a good day. See you guys next time, hopefully. Have a good one. Bye.